The Ravens won't stop. And if you thought Baltimore's offense was already dangerous, the latest revelation from Declan Doyle showed that major changes are coming in 2026. And we're not talking about small adjustments. Some of these changes have the potential to completely transform the way the Ravens attack opposing defenses. The most interesting part is that these changes involve Lamar Jackson, player movement, the pace of the offense, and even the amount of freedom the quarterback will have on the field. Little by little, Doyle is revealing pieces of a plan that could make the Ravens even more unpredictable. And once you understand everything Baltimore is preparing, you'll see why so many eyes are on this offense heading into the season. What's up, Flock? My name is Tiago. I'm a Brazilian Ravens fan, and welcome back to Purple Flock TV. One of the most interesting changes happening in Baltimore involves the way Lamar Jackson will operate this offense. Ravens offensive coordinator Declan Doyle wants to use the quarterback under center much more often, something that has not been a major part of Lamar's career up to this point. For anyone used to seeing Lamar take the snap from the shotgun, this change might seem small at first. But in the NFL, adjustments like this can open the door for an offense that becomes much harder to predict. What stood out to me the most was the confidence Doyle showed when talking about this transition. During training camp, he said, "He's very natural at it. You would never notice that he hasn't been under center that much." That is not just a random comment. We're talking about a coach who is building his own offensive system and could simply limit Lamar to what he already knows best. Instead, he's expanding Lamar's skill set and showing complete confidence in his ability to handle new responsibilities. This change also creates problems for any defense lined up across from Baltimore. When Lamar receives the ball closer to the offensive line, the possibilities immediately increase. It could be a Derrick Henry run. It could be Lamar keeping the ball himself. It could be a play-action concept designed to attack deep areas of the field. There's one important detail here. The more options a defense has to respect, the harder it becomes to react quickly. And when defenders hesitate for even a moment, talented players usually turn those small openings into explosive plays. We could be watching the beginning of an even more complete version of Lamar Jackson. Not just a quarterback who can win games with his arm and his legs, but someone operating in a much more diverse offensive system than what we've seen in Baltimore over the last few years. And this transformation is not stopping with the quarterback position, because the next change involves how the Ravens plan to move their receivers around and create constant confusion for opposing defenses. If the first change is about putting Lamar Jackson in different situations, the second one affects almost every player on the offense. Declan Doyle is installing a system that demands constant versatility. Instead of keeping each player locked into one specific role, the idea is to move players all over the field, create different formations, and force defenses to adjust before the ball is even snapped. It's a philosophy that reminds me of some of the most modern offenses in the NFL, the ones that try to win the mental battle before the physical battle even begins. One of the clearest examples came from Zay Flowers earlier this week. The receiver explained that he's been lining up in several different positions during practice. Doyle reinforced that idea by saying, "We're asking our guys to do a lot of different things." He also explained that receivers are learning routes and alignments they might not even use during the regular season. The goal is not just memorizing plays, but understanding the entire offense, so they can be moved anywhere on the field when the situation calls for it. There's one detail about this approach that really stands out. When a receiver can line up inside, outside, or even change positions moments before the snap, the defense starts losing its reference points. Defenders have to communicate quickly, switch responsibilities, and reorganize coverages within seconds. A lot of mistakes happen during those moments of uncertainty. That is why so many of the NFL's most productive offenses use this type of movement as one of their biggest weapons. The most interesting part is that this versatility also creates the foundation for another change that could completely reshape the identity of Baltimore's offense. Because moving players around is only part of the equation if the offense continues operating at the same pace as before. And based on Doyle's comments, the Ravens are planning to speed things up in a significant way. The next step in this transformation could make Baltimore play at a tempo fans haven't seen before. For years, the Ravens have been known for controlling the clock, dominating possession, and building long, physical drives. That style brought important results, but everything points toward a new approach emerging in Baltimore. Declan Doyle has revealed that he wants to add more pace to the offense, using changes in tempo to create constant pressure on opposing defenses. Instead of playing at one speed all game, Baltimore wants to learn how to speed things up and slow things down, depending on what the situation requires. The numbers help explain this change. Last season, Baltimore was among the slowest teams in the NFL when it came to time between plays. Meanwhile, the systems connected to Sean Payton and Ben Johnson, two coaches who influenced Doyle throughout his career, are known for operating at a much more aggressive pace. Doyle acknowledges himself when he said, "Those are stressors to the defense, and we want to be able to push the throttle and pull it back." That statement shows the goal is not simply playing faster, but controlling the emotional and strategic rhythm of the game. When a defense faces a fast-paced offense, problems start building quickly. There is less time for substitutions, less time for adjustments, and less time to identify formations. Defenders have to process information and react almost instantly. A missed coverage or a bad alignment often happens because someone simply didn't have enough time to understand what was happening in front of them. That type of mental pressure appears to be exactly what Doyle wants to create. And the more I look at Doyle's comments coming out of training camp, the clearer it becomes that speed is not the only thing this new coaching staff wants to change. There is another element that keeps showing up in his comments: the desire to confuse defenses before play even begins. And that takes us directly to one of the most intriguing parts of this new offensive system. Another major trend coming to Baltimore is the increased use of motions and shifts before the snap. For anyone who is not familiar with these terms, we're talking about those movements that happen before the play begins, when players change positions or move across the formation while the quarterback is making his initial reads. It might look like simple movement, but many times this is exactly where the defense reveals what it is trying to do. Doyle has made it clear that he wants to use these tools much more often than we have seen in recent years. This strategy has two major advantages. The first is creating doubt for defenders, forcing them to constantly react and adjust. The second is giving Lamar Jackson valuable information before the ball is even snapped. Depending on how the defense responds to a receiver's movement, Lamar can identify coverages, defensive adjustments, and possible weaknesses before the play even starts. This part really stands out to me because some of the best teams in the NFL are already using this exact concept. The most creative offenses in the league are not relying only on player talent. They are creating advantages through information. The more information a quarterback can collect before the snap, the better his chances of making the right decision after it. It is a silent battle that happens seconds before the play begins, and it often goes unnoticed by people watching from home. But there is one factor that can make all these changes even more effective: Lamar under center, receivers lining up in multiple positions, a faster tempo, constant motions and shifts. All of this works better when the quarterback fully understands the system. And that is why the next step in Baltimore's plan involves giving Lamar Jackson more and more control over the offense throughout the season.
If you're enjoying this breakdown, smash that like button to help the purple flock grow.
Even though all these tactical changes are exciting, perhaps the most important development is connected to Lamar Jackson's role in this new system. Declan Doyle has made it clear that he wants to gradually increase the quarterback's autonomy as Lamar becomes more comfortable with the offensive concepts. In other words, Lamar will not simply be the player executing plays sent in from the sideline. He will have a bigger role in shaping decisions on the field. Doyle explained how he sees this process. It changes play to play. There are different areas of the field where he might have a lot more freedom because of what we're expecting from a defense. As he starts to master the system, then you can put more and more on him. This statement shows that the coaching staff is thinking about the long-term process. The freedom will not come all at once. It will be earned as Lamar continues to understand every layer of this new offense. There is a huge difference between a quarterback who simply follows instructions and one who has the ability to adjust plays at the line of scrimmage. When that level of trust is reached, an offense gains the flexibility to immediately respond to what the defense shows. And we're talking about a player who has already proven many times that he has the intelligence, experience, and ability to take advantage of defensive mistakes. The more control he has over those decisions, the higher this offense's potential becomes. Maybe this is the piece that connects every other change we've talked about. More snaps under center, receiver versatility, increased tempo, and pre-snap motions all point in the same direction. The Ravens are building an offense that is more complex, more modern, and more unpredictable. And at the center of everything will be Lamar Jackson, with more tools, more responsibility, and potentially more control over the offense than at any other point in his career. When you put all the pieces coming out of training camp together, you start to see a very interesting picture of what the Ravens are trying to build. This is not just about putting Lamar Jackson under center more often or increasing the number of motions before the snap. It feels like Baltimore is working to make this offense unpredictable in every possible way, creating different methods to attack defenses without being limited to a single offensive identity. Another important detail is that many of these changes are still in the early stages. Declan Doyle is installing his system for the first time as an offensive coordinator. Young players are fighting for bigger roles, and Lamar Jackson is continuing to absorb new responsibilities within the scheme. That means the offense we are seeing during practice is probably still far from its final version. And maybe that is what makes this entire process so interesting right now. If these ideas translate into success on the field, the Ravens could have one of the most complete and creative offenses they have had in recent years. But now I want to hear from you. Which one of these changes revealed by Declan Doyle do you think will have the biggest impact on Baltimore's offense in 2026? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.
And if you're a true Ravens fan and love keeping up with everything happening around the team, don't leave this video without sharing it with a friend who's just as passionate. They're definitely going to enjoy this. See those videos on your screen right now? I picked the first one especially for you, and the other is recommended by YouTube. Go check them out, and I'll see you in the next video.